Welcome, everyone, to the Cultivating Wellbeing, a Whole Life Approach for Agriculture series. We are on our third session. We appreciate your grace for us having to postpone what we had planned on doing in March. So this is the March session, bigger and better than ever in April. So welcome, everyone. And we'll have another session next week. So you weren't seeing things in double. We had intended on doing it this way. So welcome, everyone. This is a multi-session interactive series that's brought to you by the Rural Resiliency Project with our program partners, the Cultivating Resiliency Program, Annie's Project, and the Women's Ag Leadership Program. And so we thank all of those, those organizations. We also have UMASH, which has supported our work, Upper Midwest Agricultural Safety and Health Center, and Forward Agriculture is a supporter of what we're doing now as well. So thank you to all of those parties. Just before we begin here, just a reminder that we use our own experience and backgrounds as guides. Each of you are experts in your own lives. If today's topic brings up thoughts and feelings that kind of surprise you, stress you out, whatever, we do have some resources that you can use to seek assistance. Of course, we have our behavioral health specialist here with us, Monica McConkey. She's an awesome resource and is happy to connect with you as well if you need some assistance in some fashion. And of course, I will do my best to assist you as well. I'm Doris Mold, and I am leading the Rural Resiliency Project and also am CEO of Annie's Project, one of our collaborating partners. And just a reminder, too, that this information is not intended to be treatment. So with that, I am going to turn things over to Monica. And we also have a special guest with us today, and we're really excited about this program. We know that finances and financial health is on everybody's mind. Welcome, Monica.
Yes, thank you so much, Doris. This is, I think, a uh, timely time to have this webinar out of the 8 areas of wellness that we're covering. This is our third, and we're focusing on financial wellness. And as we are connected to agriculture and heading into spring, of course, we are hearing, seeing, feeling, depending on your role in agriculture, all of the increased financial pressures. So just a little introduction for those who don't know me. My name is Monica McConkey, and I'm a agricultural mental health counselor, which means that I work with farmers and ranchers and those in ag business every day, providing counseling and support. I grew up on a farm up here in Northwest Minnesota, close to where I live right now, and it's currently still in the family being operated. My son is the 5th generation working with my brother and my dad. So good to be with you here today. We are, like I said, on the financial dimension of wellness out of the 8 areas of wellness that we will be talking about. And so this model comes from an organization called SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, federal organization which kind of guides mental health services in the country. But the premise is when we look at our whole well-being as a person, all 8 of these impact how we are. And if any of these is a struggle, if there's stress in any area, if there's distress in any area, that impacts our well-being. So in this series, we're going to be touching on all 8 of these. We'll have the 4th webinar, the 4th series webinar next week, and then taking a little bit of a break over the summer, and then picking back up for the final 4 in September. So the way this hour will work, we have already done introductions. I have some polls, some anonymous polls that we'll be doing, and I'll put that up on the screen next. We have a guest speaker with us today, which I'm very excited about. We will then go into breakout rooms just for some smaller group discussion. Stick with us in these breakout rooms. A lot of times people are like, I don't want to talk, I don't want to turn my camera on. Um, it's okay. Just be there, be in the breakout room. That's where we really pick up some good strategies and tips that can help us in this area of financial wellness. After the breakout room, we'll come back as a whole group and we'll talk a bit again. So stick with us. It's only an hour. And after the recap, Doris has some resources that she'll be sharing. And then we will let you go until the next time. So the polling feature that we will be using is called Poll Everywhere. And we're just going to take a moment to get set up for you to answer the polls. So the easiest thing is to go to your texting app. And the number you're texting to is 22333. The message you're texting is that code, Monica MCC ONK 993. Might have to move if your pictures are on the side there, you might have to slide those over. If it's not working like this on the first poll on the next slide, there is a QR code you can also scan to get set up. So if it works, if the code goes through, you should get a response saying you're part of the session. And that's all you have to do. Anytime there's a poll, you just text in your answer. Super simple. I like using this because it is anonymous versus chat where people can see who's answering. So maybe a little bit more comfortable doing it this way. Okay, we're going to try it out. So first question, one word comes to mind when you think of financial wellness? So go ahead and text in your word. Security. That's a good word to lead off with. Fear. Enough. Like, do we have enough? Savings, confidence. If you aren't connected to the polling feature, you can also scan that QR code up there in the right-hand corner. So we have less, we have relief, we have stress. Less might have gone with stress, or it could just mean less money, less finances. Scared. Any other words come to mind when we think of financial wellness? Anxiety, troubled. Okay, we've got some good ones here. Let's take a look at when we talk financial wellness, what does it mean? And I have 7 components of financial wellness that we'll just run through really quickly. The first is that we have one component of being financially well is that we have a clear understanding of our financial picture. So we know, what do we own? What do we owe? How much is coming in? How much is going out? And the purpose for knowing all of this is so that we can make informed decisions rather than guessing, hoping, fingers crossed. We're gonna beat the check to the bank, right? We've all lived those times in our lives. So first is a clear understanding of our financial picture. The second is effective budgeting and cash flow management, which is all about having a realistic plan for our income and our expenses, and that we track it regularly so we know where we stand. We know that our day-to-day bills are going to be covered, and that if there is a surprise, if there's a breakdown, if there's a medical emergency, if we have to buy a new washing machine or a different vehicle, it doesn't create an immediate crisis, which leads into the next one, which is adequate emergency savings. So ideally, we would have 3 to 6 months of essential expenses covered. So we can keep the lights on, we can keep the phone, the cell phone on if something unexpected happens, like we have a major equipment breakdown, vehicle issue, medical bills, or we are unable to work and bring in income. So developing a cushion. Next is a manageable debt and credit use. So keeping, and this is for those of you who are egg producers, this is tough in agriculture. How do we keep debt levels at a point that we can comfortably manage them? How do we use our credit intentionally and avoid high cost or predatory lending? Um, and I have got to say that in the last, oh gosh, 6 months, I've had 4 farmers now contact me because they have been caught up in a scam and have lost significant amounts of money, two of which have lost their farm because of these scam situations. Involving cryptocurrency has been kind of the theme of most of them. So we just need to be really careful in these times of especially distress and a depressed egg economy about those um, offers that come in that sound really good and really legitimate when they just are not. It is heartbreaking. Yes. Okay, next one is that we have protection through insurance and risk management. So carrying that appropriate insurance, health, life, disability, property, liability, and risk mitigation strategies. So if something happens, it doesn't undo all of our years of work and progress. And I think this is our sixth one, planning for long-term goals and retirement. So setting money aside for future priorities, whatever that might look like, through savings and investing. And then lastly is really the emotional connection with our finances. And that's feeling confidence and reduce levels of stress when it comes to money related issues. So the hope is that we can get to a point where we're feeling reasonably calm, we feel informed, we feel in control of our decisions, and that we feel some sense of belief in the future we're going to be okay. Like we can adapt, we're prepared, we can handle what's coming our way. And again, I know in agriculture that's tricky, right? Tricky area to attain financial wellness. So financial wellness doesn't necessarily being debt free or having, $1 million in the bank, but it means managing your resources well. Okay. Next, I'm so excited to introduce Rebecca, or do you prefer Becca?
I usually go by Becca, but either is
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
Okay. And thank you so much for
Thank
joining us
you.
today. Why don't you introduce yourself, talk about
Sure.
kind of who you are, what you do, whatever you'd like to share.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I'm Becca Herberg. I am a farm business management instructor at South Central College in North Mankato. I meet with a lot of producers in southern Minnesota. My main kind of territory, I guess I would say, geographic area. I'm in St. Peter. So work with producers in kind of that area. I've been a farm business management instructor for about 3 years now. I was in high school ag education prior to that. My husband and I also farm outside of St. Peter, corn and soybeans. We have some cattle as well. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. So, Becca, when you hear the term financial wellness, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, great question. So I love how you just mentioned that it doesn't mean being debt free or having $1 million, because I think it's not a perfect balance sheet, right? A lot of people are like, well, what's my net worth? What does my balance sheet say? What are my assets? That sort of thing. Do I have X amount of dollars in the bank? To me, that's not financial wellness. If I were to text in a couple words, I probably would have put clarity and control.
Mm.
So that means clarity wise, do you know where you stand financially at any given point of time? Do you have a plan? You know, if expenses or things are happening in your world, like, do you have a plan? Do you know what that looks like, in regards to clarity? And then the control piece, are you feeling like your decisions that you're making in regards to your finances your own? Like, do you have the freedom to make decisions in regards to whatever's important to you, whether that's keeping the farm going, is my family cared for, or do I just feel less stressed and I can sleep at night, right? I have control over those decisions. So that's what financial wellness means to me. Yeah.
That's awesome. I really like that clarity and control.
Yeah, those would
Uh,
be my two
what,
words. Yeah.
yeah, they're good words. They're good words when we look at the big picture, the big area of financial wellness. What would you say are one or two financial blind spots that you commonly see with the people you work with, either as an individual or a couple or a
Yeah.
family? What are some of the blind spots that come up that really can uh, kind of rock a person's world, if you will?
Sure. I would say the biggest one is not looking or avoiding your numbers altogether. Um, I've had I've had a producer say, like, I know it's bad, so I just don't look at it, right? And we avoid it and set it aside and keep going and not know where things are at. And I get that. Like, avoidance can be human nature, and it might feel
Mhm.
better short term to not deal with it. But what I've come across is that the sooner you actually do kind of tackle some of those hurdles, the more options that you'll have earlier on. If you let things wait or we're procrastinating with knowing the full picture of where our finances are, then down the road, if something were to happen, you might be left with limited choices, the further down the road it goes. So that would be number one is avoiding it or not knowing where things are at.
Kind of like that
Another,
ostrich syndrome, like I'm just going to stick my head in the
yeah,
sand, pretend it's not happening,
I'll
which
deal with it later.
definitely happens with chronic stress, right? Because we
Right.
just we just can't deal with it.
Don't want to think
Okay,
about it. Yeah.
that's a good one.
Another one would be maybe blending or not separating out. If you're farming, a producer, so that's kind of where I'm going with this, not separating out personal and farm finances.
Mm.
So if you have one bank account where all of your personal income and expenses are going along with farm, and then we need to see, like, is the farm truly being profitable? And it's hard for us to separate out, okay, well, what was our personal side of things? What was truly farm? It can just get a
Mm.
little difficult if we were to have to go through it. So having separate accounts, so that you can easily go through and see, what was farm. And maybe what you'll find is, oh gosh, my personal income was actually funding, farm expenses or vice versa. So then being able to make a plan there and see kind of what changes need to be made. So just having those separate, I think.
That's great. And would you say that that also is helpful when we look at, okay, times are kind of tough right now. Where do we cinch the belt per se? Um, Gosh, look at our personal spending.
Right.
It's through the roof, and we don't really stop and look at that when it's all blended
Put it
together. So I
together.
could see how that
Mhm.
separation could help really pinpoint where we can make improvement as well.
Yeah, some of those focus areas, and it'll help you then too. I mean, being able to track everything, it'll help you be able to pinpoint those focus areas and say, gosh, our seed or whatever it is, or,
Hmm.
groceries, those sorts of things to focus on then and make a plan for future going ahead.
Awesome. Would you recommend if some people, let's say they do have a farm, but maybe they're doing something a little on the side as well. Maybe they have their own Mary Kay business. Maybe
Sure.
there's a separate, should each business entity have its own account?
Ideally.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
and some things, maybe if it's smaller, like, Mary Kay sales, which maybe isn't always small, but
Hmm.
if that goes into some of your personal accounts, that works too, as long as you have some sort of way to track it, right?
Okay.
And know what's coming from where. Yeah.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. It's kind of along those same lines. What do you suggest as just very practical habits or systems that help people become more financially well or financially stable? What are some recommendations that you have?
Well, kind of going off what we were just talking about, first would be having a tracking system. So if you're not currently tracking things, get started. And it doesn't have to be anything super complicated, right? Like, let's keep it simple so that we actually use it. So it
Hmm.
might be a spreadsheet tracking farm or personal finances that way. A lot of people use software programs, QuickBooks, Quicken, those sorts of programs. Even just a notebook works too, it doesn't have to be complicated, but making sure that we're recording, okay, what is all of our income for the week or the month, and then forecasting out for the year, writing out all of your expenses. Then kind of, okay, what's going to happen this week? What's going to happen this month? We can maybe try to forecast out a little bit. Um, that's super important. And from there, you can build your own budget, right? Okay, so what do we need to allocate for our grocery expense each week or month and have a budget plan? And then again, my next habit would be checking in on those things. So coming up with your whatever works for you in your daily life. For me, every Saturday morning, I pull up my computer, I do my regular with my coffee, I do my check-in, and I update my spreadsheet that I use for our budget to see, okay, how much do we have left to go towards X,
Mhm.
Y, and Z? Where are we at? I can forecast out, oh, hey, I know we have a random expense coming in. Then nothing unusual for the most part should come up. Of course, there's always
Mhm.
those unknowns, like a medical thing, that pop up
Sure.
too, but at least you know where you're at. And hopefully, then it's not as stressful. You can come up with a plan for how you're going to tackle those things. So, track it,
Yeah.
budget it, and then check in.
Awesome.
Um, I guess one other thing that I would add that's
Mhm.
not necessarily those kind of daily to-dos that I think maybe is the most important is communication.
Mm.
Whether it's with like your spouse or partner, if you're the one who's doing all the budgeting, that you let them know kind of where things are at. And then even, like with your bank, your lender, just having that open dialogue so everyone's on the same page, I think is probably like number one most important system or habit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I should have said this earlier, if you all have questions, feel
I
free
did
to
see
use
a
the
question
chat.
pop up. Yeah,
And also we will pause in a little bit here and just kind of open it up to questions for
yeah,
Rebecca. But someone did put into the chat that they do all their expenses in Quicken software, easy to run reports and see what account expenses are paid from. So that's
absolutely.
awesome. I know I started using QuickBooks probably a year ago. And I tell you what, when it came to tax time this year, and I could just print a thing on all my expenses, before I'd be literally going through receipts. And it was tracked so much better when I kept up in QuickBooks. So great ideas to use.
Mhm.
You had said that every Saturday morning you pause and check in,
Yeah.
you're in there and checking.
I
Is
would say
weekly,
maybe it's sometimes at night after my
yeah,
kids go to bed. Not always in the morning, but I try to do it weekly.
yeah,
Yep.
that's awesome. Because I could see weekly being you're more able to stay on top of it versus if like once a month I'm sitting
Yeah.
down doing my bills and then looking at my
And
account,
then
it's
it's
like, oh
not as
gosh.
yeah, not as big of a pile of stuff to sort through too.
Yeah, that's really good. Do you have recommendations for how often you are communicating with like your lender, for example?
Sure. Well, I would say every lender's different in what their preferences are too. Um, Definitely at least annually is what they would require for, loan renewals, those sorts of things. Um, Couple times a year, providing them with, I guess it depends. Like if you're farming versus not, you may not need to update on the personal side of things that frequently. But if you're looking at maybe a larger purchase or selling of something, then it may be more frequent, but at least maybe quarterly, just say, hey, here's
Okay.
where things are at. Like, I know we have this loan, that sort of thing. Just to let them know that you have it under control. And then, if you have that rapport, and that trust, then you kind of get a little more freedom sometimes too. And then they may say, "Hey, we trust you, so once a year may be fine," but it depends on the lender. Yeah,
So
it
it's really a piece of that is really about relationship building as well.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, question in the chat, if you don't have a budget by month, does Quicken or QuickBooks have features to help with budgeting?
Oh, not that I recall.
Okay.
Because the best way if you're farming is to create your cash flow. And then that's what I do a lot with my producers is we sit down and we together look at all their expenses and come up with those budgeting per month numbers. I
Okay.
don't know of a way to do that in that software program though.
Okay. If anybody does, put a comment
Yeah,
in.
not, she said
Otherwise,
there
if
are
there
some
are,
not good ones. Yeah,
oh, okay. Yeah,
sorry.
I just saw Ruth's comment too. There are some budget features, but not very good
Not good
ones.
ones. Yeah.
Okay. So something to maybe do some investigation on what is out there for budgeting. That
Yeah.
could be help, or if someone else knows, Doris, you're unmuted, share.
Well, actually, I wasn't going to share about the budgeting. I know that some software has better budgeting features than others, and as you get
Hmm.
into the more, um, I guess, uh, specific, ag software, there's budgeting, features in those. I did have a couple of things that came up in our registration questions that I
Mm,
wanted to pose to Becca as well while we have her here. First of all, I had a question that said, how to sustain ranching in today's high inputs and continue to flourish. And I know, Becca, with your work with as working in farm business management and working with a lot of producers, you probably have lots of conversations on this.
No. Yeah, that is a very deep and difficult to answer question, I would say. Um, but again, just with some of these habits that I touched on and knowing where you stand and knowing what's coming up in the year, having that plan is helpful. And then I would say, like, planning for the worst too. So, you know, fertilizer expenses are through the roof. Cattle prices are great if you're selling them, but if you need to buy them, prices are crazy to try to afford. And creating a budget and a plan that's maybe like worst case scenario. So then that way too, you're being conservative and if there were to be some, drastic financial stressor that were to come up, you've already thought about it and made a plan about it. I think is really important with these uncertain times right now with markets. And then looking out to the future and saying, okay, like we got through that. Okay, so then if this happens, what do we do next? Yeah, I guess, do you have
But
anything to
but
spin off of that?
but don't you see, and Monica, you mentioned this
Hmm.
when things get tough, and I've seen this, I work with a lot of people. When things get tough, we avoid looking at the finances because we just
Oh,
don't
yeah.
want to look at them, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
or the opposite can happen too. Sometimes people only look at the finances when times are tough and they're not
Mm.
developing good habits that they use
Absolutely.
all of the
The
time.
time.
And that's important, I think, to really to develop habits that, and you're watching it. Maybe you watch it a little more closely when times are tighter, but you
Mm.
still need to be watching it, and not unless you're a billionaire, right? And you just have, you can light a
Money to
match to a
spend.
few
Yeah.
million and it doesn't matter. But I don't think any of us are in that situation. So that's really important. Somebody else had asked in the question saying, what are some low risk opportunities for farmers to invest? In other words, take some money
Mm.
outside of the business, outside of a savings account. And so,
Mm.
and I think generally looking at, can we move some money outside of the farm so you have like a nest egg that's not going to be, lost if things, if things go south with the farm or ranch. But a lot of us don't ever take money out of our business, right? We just keep plowing it back in. So, do you have any
Yeah.
thoughts there?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I think meeting with maybe a financial planner too, or somebody that can help guide some of those non-farm investment opportunities would be helpful. Um, Off the top of my head, non-farming related, I'm not sure. Would have to maybe look at each person's individual situation. But one thing farming related is, do you have the ability to diversify your operation? Could you grow something, a different crop? Something with cattle or, having some different revenue streams, whether it's trucking, just different things
Mm-hmm.
where you can use your assets that you already have in a different way, to diversify and find more revenue streams, I think is always beneficial to look at too.
We also had somebody write in the chat. If you haven't been watching the chat,
Mm-hmm.
one person said that they move money into short-term CDs, which pay more than savings account. So you have,
Great. Yeah,
some close-up access to the money. You're not tying it up forever and ever, but
right.
you're getting
It's still,
some
yep, still liquid assets. Yeah,
interest there. Good ideas, and
great idea.
lots of good comments too on budgets and spreadsheets and all the things that we need to be working on here.
Good.
Yes. Any more questions, Doris, that came in beforehand or ahead of time?
I don't.
Any of those?
Let me just double check here.
Okay.
Um, no, I'm not seeing any additional.
Okay. I'll just run through chat in case someone is just joining us, like maybe by phone if they're driving or in the tractor and not able to have the screen in front of them. So Donna commented that she takes her Quicken thumb drive to the accountant.
Yep.
Easy for everyone at tax time. Ruth commented that she does finances 15 minutes a day. So daily check-in. This is where I'm at. This is what's coming in. This is what's going out. Dawn commented, we did QuickBooks for 20 years and just recently moved to EggWorks. Super excited to see the fine-tuned financials to Farm and Ranch.
Yeah, there are a lot of new software, new apps coming up.
Okay.
There are a ton of options.
Okay. Kind of farm specific, would you
Yeah,
say, Becca?
most
Okay.
of them that yeah. I mean, there are others out there, but what
Mm-hmm.
I deal with in my everyday work is all egg related.
Exciting.
Yeah.
And Bev shared that for budgeting, she does a spreadsheet with her monthly budget based on previous year's expenses. So using history to help plan for the future. And then Ruth, I love this, two hands on the wheel when times get tough. Never let go of the wheel. So just
Absolutely.
looking
Yeah.
for that kind of stabilizing force and through habits, which, was what we were just talking about. And then Bev made the comment about the short-term CDs. Okay, awesome. I have another question for you.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Um, when someone, for the person who feels either ashamed or anxious about their finances, so there's some tough emotions attached to it.
Yeah.
What is a realistic first step they could take even like this week or this month to work toward better financial wellness, even in light of those feelings of anxiety or shame?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question because I mean, everyone at any point in time in their life, you can think of a time where you felt anxious, about finances. It can be a stressful topic. So first I'd say like you're not alone. I mean, we've all been there. So take a breath and just start from square one. Try to get the full picture first. And if you're not sure where that is, then let's start with trying to track things. It doesn't need to be fixed on the same day that you start looking at the full picture. So we're not solving everything right at from square one either. So just lay it out and see where you're at. If you have somebody that can sit down and do things with you, that's nice. So whether it's a business partner, your farming partner, a spouse, somebody that you're working with for financial advice, FBM instructor like myself, just to help go through and organize it all, that's helpful too if you're feeling just anxious or overly worried. Um, and then a lot of times, you'll feel like, whew, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Now I at least know the situation and build a plan from there because I feel like, that clarity piece, when we know what's going on and we have that plan, that can even just alleviate some of that stress and anxiety. Like, okay, I'm in control now. I've got this. And then just do it like month by month. Set some goals. Say, like, okay, I see that this is a focus area. Let's create a goal, see where we're at next month, um, is
Yeah,
helpful.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It really brings my mind back to the work I do with folks. So they're stressed. So the emotional part of their brain is up here, and their thinking, planning, problem solving part of their brain is really diminished. So when you can make a plan, like Becca is saying, it can help kind of flip that switch to get thinking brain engaged and calm that emotion down. So calm that anxiety, calm that shame
Mhm.
down. So um, great tips, great tools. Okay, opening it up. Questions or Becca, comments. Let's pick her brain while we have her here. Someone was asking about the Egg Works
Well, it looks like they posted
website.
it.
Looks like
I
that's
found two different things, and they both are related to software. So I'm not sure if the person who has the software could maybe clarify which one it is. So I didn't get a chance to look at it more closely. I'm just looking.
so we have Egg Works or My Egg Works. Any other questions for Becca?
Becca,
Beck,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
Ruth.
You had mentioned, kind of maybe getting involved in another enterprise, using your assets in different ways. Don did mention, be careful. We have our own semi and hauler
Yeah.
commodities, but to get our own MC authority was going to cost an extra 20,000
Mm,
for licenses and insurance. So
Right.
sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
depends
That's a
on the
great.
opportunity.
Yeah, that's a great call out too. I mean, you really have to be strategic about it, right? And coming up with maybe theoretical cash flows too and see like, okay, is this actually going to be what I think it will be? And you might find, oh, actually no, that doesn't
Mhm.
work out the way. I didn't think about all the extra expenses and things you'd have to do. So I would say, yeah,
Mhm.
to go back, strategic diversification with what you have. Yeah.
Good. We have a question. Any thoughts you have, and I'm sure you have these clients working in multi-generational farms and keeping the books and communication open. I know I've worked
Yeah.
with some families where there's very much like gatekeeping over the books and the incoming generations, like how do we know? How do we make decisions? How do we plan when, maybe mom and dad won't let us see the book? So just thoughts on
That can be
keeping the
tough.
books or communication open.
That can be tough depending on, like you said, the relationship dynamic. Ideally, yeah, if we are a multi-generational farm, we're all doing this together, then we're in a team together and we should be reviewing these finances together and talking about it as a team. If there is a dynamic that doesn't allow that, then tapping into maybe Monica has some ideas on how to work with that
Okay.
relationship and build and get to a place where that communication can be open.
Yeah, it is hard. I agree. And what I see is there's uncertainty on the part of the older generation about the younger generation actually coming into the picture. So do we want to reveal all when we're
Hmm.
not 100% sure? Or the other thing I see is you talked about this in the beginning, the personal and business aren't separated.
Yeah.
So they're opening up the business side is going to also allow them to see their personal financial picture. And so I think that speaks to what you said earlier that these things should be separate. They really should be separate.
Hmm. Yeah, and I just saw another question come through in regards to that, like what reports would you run for family meetings? So I guess if you're not inputting all the numbers together and then you're coming together later, big ones would be like your income, your profit and loss statement, and you can do like year to date. You can, make it for a certain point of time. That would be really helpful. Updated balance sheets to see, asset and liabilities, how things are doing. Those would be the key two reports to run just out of your record keeping software.
Awesome.
Don't you think too, though, for instance, cash flow budget versus cash flow actual
Oh,
too
yeah.
is a really important one for people because sometimes you can tell people, oh, things are tight, but they need to see that things are
See
tight,
the
right?
numbers.
And
Yeah.
and see that, and so maybe that can be a way to open up conversation about, well, where can we tighten our belt here? Because we're not going to have this money coming in until this point in time. I know that we have those conversations in our own family as we're running things. It's like, okay, things are going to be tight here until these things happen. So, and especially if somebody's a little bit delayed in paying you
Hmm.
for what you've sold or services that you've provided. So those are always good conversations to have, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. And Ruth added, encourage users to play with reports. There's so much to utilize.
There is. And depending on what you're using, if for your software, yeah, there's a lot that you can print out.
So I guess the message there is open communication and looking at what do you have available to you for reports. To bring to those family financial meetings so people are aware of the picture, like what are things looking like. I just talked to a young man this morning right before this that farms with his sister, and he's doing, they're both on the farm doing the physical work, boots on the ground, but she really has the books and the finances. And that's one point of stress for him, is that on any given day I have no idea where we stand. And
Yeah.
not that she's withholding, It's more like it just doesn't, it's not talked about. She handles that, they have their roles. So it is about that open communication, like you said. Like we're a
And
team,
also,
we all have to know.
yeah, and also you might not be intentionally trying to gatekeep
Right.
something, but life gets busy, right? And if you're running 500 places at once, it gets harder. It's like, whoops, we just didn't have time to sit down and do it. So scheduling time, making it part of your habit and routine, and then you both know, okay, Saturday, here we go. Let's review everything is helpful.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think that's a
Yeah.
really good point, Becca. I think too is making that a normal part if you're having a weekly farm meeting or whatever, and
Mhm.
people are talking about, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to repair this, repair that, and then that would be a natural place to bring in, okay, here's just a review of where we're at with things. This is our standing. So kind of as you're making decisions about operational stuff, maybe you need to get XYZ, whatever, and things are tight. So maybe we have to, can you hold off until next week to do that?
Yeah.
That's when that money's coming in, or, we're all cleared. So when you're talking about operational things, you can also talk about the finances as you're going along with that.
Mhm.
I think that's a really important thing, just to have that be part of that conversation. Because I think sometimes when you're not the person looking at the books, if you don't, if you're the person kind of keeping track of that stuff, if you're not saying stuff, people are going to go out and spend money. They say, oh,
Yep.
well, everything's fine, I'm going to go buy all this stuff. And and I think that's a really important thing to be regularly communicating about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Awesome discussion. Thank you so much, Becca, for being
Thank
here.
you.
You don't have to go. You can stay if you want. Um, but this was a great discussion. There's two questions. We're going to have you guys just break out into little smaller groups for, I don't know, probably 8 minutes or so, Doris. 7, 8 minutes. And there's two things we're asking you to discuss just in your smaller group. One, and I'll put these into chat as well. Think about a recent season or year when money felt especially tight or unpredictable. What made it stressful? And what is one budgeting or planning habit that either did or might have made that period feel more manageable? The second is farm finances are often affected by things you can't control, like markets or weather. One area of your financial life that you can control in the next 3 to 6 months, and what's a realistic first step you could take to build more confidence there. So I'm going to put that because that's a lot. So I'll put it into chat so you have continued access um, to it.
And we're not recording the rooms, so just to
No.
know that that's open discussion. And just a reminder too that what is said in the room stays in the room. As far as if you come back out and we're discussing things, please don't identify individual people and comments that they made, but you can refer to things in general. So I'm going to open the rooms. Here we go.
Does anyone have anything that they would like to share confidentially that came up during their discussion, small discussion? Anything that um, you feel like would be helpful for the good of the whole, for everyone to hear?
So if you want to share, just go ahead and unmute. You don't have to type it into the chat or anything. You're all very able to just unmute if that works, and
Yeah.
just share your
I
thoughts.
was just speaking in our chat room, and my co-partner that was there, she suggested, like your inputs, you really have to go back and look over your inputs and see
Mm,
what's worth putting in and what's not.
mm. Hard decisions this year. I mean, other years too, but I think this year that's definitely a topic of conversation. Okay, awesome.
I'd
Yeah, the
like to
inputs make
say,
sense.
since we are in such a drought in South Dakota, if it continues, we're going to have to sell off some of our cattle. And that
Mm,
financial decision is something, because cattle prices are really high. On the selling end, it wouldn't be bad, but on the buying end, how does that work? I mean, does it have to be within a year, or how does that work?
Tax question, isn't it?
Yeah, tax question.
Yeah. Do you have someone that you trust with taxes?
Well, we did, but he just retired on the April 15th.
Call
Just
him back
retired.
up. Say, hey, you owe me a favor. You didn't die, you're retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question though. Lots to consider.
Yeah. Certainly, I think that's a really good point, though, Nancy, is that a lot of times we think, okay, we're going to sell this or do this, but the tax implications can be really important on those things. So it's always good to talk to a trusted advisor on those things.
I have my contact info up at any time. Folks are, absolutely feel free to reach out. I'm not the financial person, I'm the emotional stress relationship person. But happy just to talk with you about, what's going on in next steps, just to be that neutral kind of listening ear. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Doris, and I know we're already at time, but she's got a few resources to run through.
All right. So we'll make this relatively quick, but appreciate all of you being here. What a good discussion we had. And that's what we kind of ran over here. But I think that those comments and discussion are important parts of this series. Just a few things. The Farm State of Mind online resource directory. It is a clearinghouse of different things that stress management, kinds of resources that can be helpful around the country, different resources. It has a searchable database, so you can look by location and type of resource you want. Some other things that are available are these additional resources there. If you've got somebody that's in crisis and you don't have somebody close by, you can call or text these numbers and get some help for people that might need that. So those are great benefits. We know of a lot of people, especially in rural areas, that have utilized those. Just some things coming up as far as some programming. So next week we have the emotional wellness. I know a lot of you are anxious for that one. And maybe that's part of that anxious, we're all anxious about lots of things. So I think the emotional wellness will be a good topic for next week. And then we will have a break as far as this programming. We're going to do some other things during the summer, but we'll have some more things on that as we move forward. And some of our collaborative partners, just a reminder of some things. If you are interested in what's driving some of the things that we're seeing in agriculture, certainly you don't want to miss the National Ag Policy Update that's going to be happening next week. So you can register at anniesproject.org. Annie's Project, as you know, is one of our collaborators here on this, and that'll be an excellent session. Jenny from Farm Credit does an awesome job and informing us as to where things are at. And then additionally, I think there's, we also have, if you're interested in some International Year of the Woman Farmer program, is the 2026 is the international year. You can join Annie's on the Improving Lives Through Annie's Project, the long-term impact. And Madeline Schultz from Iowa State will be presenting on that. And then for all of us, I think it's important for us to be aware of suicide prevention. May is Mental Health Month, and so our Women's Ag Leadership folks are going to be sponsoring, along with Farmer Veteran Coalition, suicide prevention training, and this QR code will get you there. But May 1st at noon, if you'd like to sign up, and Monica is the trainer on those, and it's an excellent QPR training because it talks about stressors and and dealing with agriculture, and then also dealing with our veteran community, both important communities to support in suicide prevention. And we have, Monica and I know of several people that have benefited from this program. They've been more prepared to help people that are in crisis. So we strongly encourage you to take one of these trainings when you have that opportunity. And then we have the original coffee chat, the next one of those. This is just a place for women and men occasionally join us too. Anyone is welcome. But a lot of women come to this and listen to each other and share what's stressing them out. And Dr. Brenda Mack, who is a social worker and also is from a farm family, so she understands these things too. She leads that conversation, and we had one this last week, just yesterday, I guess, and then we'll be having another one in May. So I encourage you to take that opportunity as well. And there is my contact information from the Rural Resiliency Project standpoint. So if you have questions, comments, and if you need to be connected with some financial help, we can help recommend some people as well. So thank you so much for being here, everyone. Excellent program. And thank you, Monica. And thank you, Becca. I think Becca maybe had to depart, but thank you everyone for being here. And this recording will be posted on the YouTube channel for Annie's project, so you can access this again and direct people to this as well. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.